Check it out.
Got it. Just like that, another day, another episode. We are
So
episode
360.
400.
380 right to the show. In between.
Let's go
How's it going,
380,
Donna? Nice to
Good.
meet you.
How are
Welcome
you?
to the show.
Well, it's good to be back. It's been a while, as we told you pre-recording, but let the world know who you are and what you do.
Hi, guys. Hello, Ali and Ali. My name is Dana Al-Masri. I am a perfumer and interdisciplinary artist and a bunch of other things, but those are the main two.
Sounds good.
Right.
And you also have a podcast talking about perfume too.
It's more about the sense of smell and talking to other people about our sense of smell and what that does or where it sits in society. It's called On the Nose. On the Nose podcast.
Wow.
Yes,
I only
that's
have 4
pretty cool.
episodes because editing is a nightmare. So as I'm
Yes.
sure you know. So
Wait.
Yeah.
And your true passion is the perfumes, right? All the ones that we're looking at behind you.
Yes, these are all essential oils or aroma molecules, and so you mix them to create perfume or scented products. So anything smell related, I'm into. So it doesn't have to be necessarily perfume, because that's just art in a bottle, or that can be commodified or be sold rather. But I'm very interested in scent in general and how it connects us.
Right. So right off the top of my mind, the first question that comes to me is it like a foundation of a chemical that you just build up on to make a new perfume, or is it always something different? Like what goes into creating scent?
So let's break down a few things first. So everything natural is chemical. So when you ask me about chemical, are you asking me about a material?
No, I mean like chemical compound structures, like more molecular than.
Well, I mean, science and perfumery are absolutely correlated. We use a lot of organic chemistry in what we do, and a lot of aroma molecules that are created or synthesized by organic chemists are usually based on esters and alcohols that are either connected naturally, synthesized from nature, or that they're crazy and geniuses and they kind of put together. Sometimes it's by accident and sometimes it's on purpose. To make all of this stuff, you have access. As an independent perfumer, I have access to a few suppliers here in North America who are kind of like resellers of molecules that can be found. They used to be called captives, meaning that each company or each fragrance company that has like their own, how do I explain this? Their own patents.
Right.
Because they're all kind of like competing with each other and creating similar molecules, but with different names and like very similar structures. And then they keep them to themselves for their perfumers, their companies, because all of the big brands, they go to the bigger companies, and then the perfumers create it. And then for indies like me, they now, after they're no longer captive, so after like 20 years, 30 years, they become accessible to certain resellers, and then I have access as an indie to those materials. Those materials, some of them I learned about in perfume school, and then that created a good base for me to understand what can I use with what to create what. And then from there, I've been doing this almost 12 years, so it's really something that you kind of like never stop learning. There's always new molecules on the market, new ways to extract materials. Now we have all this stuff with sustainability because it's actually not that sustainable for the environment to use certain naturals. Then there's the whole greenwashing with like natural versus chemical, but everything is chemical, even ourselves.
Yes.
So that's it,
and even water is H2O.
I don't know if I answered your question because there's so many different parts.
You gave us so many answers to like a lot of questions.
To deep dive into each one of them.
I wanna just know, like you said, you went to school for perfuming. So what got you into, scent to begin with?
It was kind of like twofold. So being Arab, I'm half Egyptian, half Lebanese, and I grew up in Dubai. So Dubai has a very strong and special olfactory culture, aka smell culture. And I grew up with bukhur and this importance on materials and how it fits in ritual and hospitality and all of these different elements. So I just grew up with smells and very, very strong smell memories. And now also looking back on my life and how I also process things, I'm extremely sensory. So I have synesthesia. I've been told I have a different way of also like processing sensory input, which makes sense for my job now. So I'm like, okay, great.
Right.
I've
So
also
like
been
a
very
superpower.
yes, I'm all very, very sensitive, and it used to be something negative, but now I'm leaning more into that. Okay, well, this is actually what informs what I do. And so those things, and just also like the power of smell in Arabic metaphor, culture, language, all of these things are kind of just embedded in who I am. So that kind of created like a very strong baseline. And then I moved to Montreal when I was 18, and I wanted to sing. So I went into like communication studies as a covert way to kind of like do sound production and, you know, like make the parents not like freak out at this like, you know, dream. And then it was kind of like all of these bad things happened. Like it was right when the economic crisis hit, and I couldn't really find a job, and I didn't like what I graduated in, and I was young when I graduated. And my friend gave me a book called Jitterbug Perfume, and that kind of catalyzed the experience. It was by Tom Robbins. And then I read The Alchemist, which was all about seeing the signs and listening to and like finding your purpose. So I realized that throughout my life, I'd had scents that kind of like, I had chapters in my life that were scented with a perfume, or a person represented a scent, or all of these different elements of smell memories kind of came together. And I was like, wait, I think, whoa, can people do this as a job? I didn't realize, because it's kind of how the perfume industry is set up, is that it's kind of all about the storytelling and fantasy. And so there's a huge facade, and they don't want you to know certain things. But I feel like people as consumers, as people now, especially, the more we know about what we're consuming, the better we feel about it. And I feel like the world of scent is so interesting that there's so much to learn that people would actually be super curious. So that kind of, I was like, wait. We don't realize that everything in our house, or everything we consume that has a scent or has an added scent, has been created or conceptualized by a perfumer. And that's when I was like, okay, wait, I found the perfume school. So it was the Grasse Institute of Perfumery in the south of France, where modern perfumery began, because ancient perfumery actually began in Mesopotamia. And so, within a year, I wrote them a letter, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Let's go.
Yeah. But it's interesting because there is something you said that's very, I agree with you a lot, which is how our culture, and especially in the Gulf region, is based on smell, right? Our food smells good, the perfumes we have, the bukhor, as you said, it's like many different factors. And so my question is, how do you think that came about? Like, in your opinion, why do you think that's such a huge factor in our society?
You'd have to ask your own kind. That's a really good question. Because even I started talking about the ethnographic aspect of scent not that long ago, like let's say in the last 5 years. And what I've noticed is that there's such a misunderstanding of the Middle East, especially living obviously in North America, but also when it comes to smell, there's a lot of Orientalism. And there's a lot of generalization. So now there's been this European obsession with oud, and this misunderstanding that oud represents all of the Middle East. And what I've been trying to express is actually like the GCC countries themselves each have their own unique olfactory culture that also binds them together, that makes especially like I'm talking about the Arabian Peninsula, save for Iraq and Yemen, that like is very, very specific to that region. I would say geographically, some people may disagree with me, but geographically, because of the fact that you have elements of Zanzibar, you have elements of India, all of the spice trade, all of that. So that element in food is the most obvious. And I think that makes it like, so geographically where everyone was based, I think created a very specific kind of microcosm, because also what most people don't realize is that oud is not Khaliji in any way. It's actually from Laos, you get it from Malaysia, from Thailand, and it's a sick tree, it's a whole complex thing. And it doesn't represent the rest of the Middle East or North Africa or South Asia, but it is a very special kind of mix that I guess just became because of, I think, the location, and I think perhaps also the lack of resources in antiquity. like there is an element of because these were just a bunch of tribes and a bunch of families, I wonder if the scarcity created this very specific ritual, kind of like pearl diving. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like all of these very, very things that could not have existed had they not been in those areas. So that's the best that I like. That's what I would assume. Yeah.
Cool. That's a safe assumption, I would say. But
it is something that, like, I may plan to go back, and this is absolutely something on my list to understand and to kind of dissect, like, what makes that special. Because also, kind of like in Sudan, it's also a very matrilineal type of thing. So a lot of the mothers, the grandmothers, are the ones teaching or creating their own bukhur or perfume oil recipes.
Yeah, it's the same in Kuwait. A lot of moms usually are the ones to go out and pick the different woods and the different types, and it's like a very important thing for them for some reason. Like, sorry mom, but to me they all smell the same. I won't lie. Right, they do, but maybe that's just because I'm bad at smelling stuff.
Yeah, all it takes is practice.
Right, but
wait, you can practice.
People mix shit all the time.
Yeah. Because you don't smell with your brain. You smell with your you don't smell with your nose. You smell with your brain, and your nose is the tool. So you're actually using. It's all in the limbic system, all in the front, and you're processing smell, memory, emotion, kullu. And what happens is you're associating smells with memories, with other experiences, with emotions. You could be like, oh, the smell of garbage, that makes me feel negative. Or positive, who knows? And that changes certain things and how you remember certain things. So the more that you just use your nose, and the more that you pay attention to your nose, you'll find you're actually a little exhausted because it requires a lot of focus and a lot of mindfulness. But it is absolutely possible.
So you can like get a refined smell, like you can get a refined taste. But
yes.
By
you can
focusing
even start
on
like in the morning, okay? Take one lime. I say this all the time because it's the easiest example, but one lime, one orange, one lemon. Cut them up, or have someone cut them up, and then put them next to each other and close your eyes and try to guess. Citrus is actually really difficult to tell between. Like I have had a very difficult time, especially in essential oil, in perfume school at least, to tell the difference between like a grapefruit and an orange, or a bitter orange versus sweet orange. They smell a lot alike, because they have a lot of the similar components or chemical properties, but they all smell different, and you can tell the nuance just by practicing and paying attention.
Interesting. Right. So here's what I want to know: what's your favorite perfume?
I don't have an answer to that. I get asked that question a lot, and I don't have just one favorite.
There's got to be that one that reminds you, that's like very sentimental, that like brings you home, or you know what I mean?
No, I have multiple. I genuinely have so many. Yeah. Like my first perfume was Soleil, and that meant sun. And that meant a lot to me because it was also in France. So in the same place that I studied 12 years later, or 12 years, you know, so that meant a lot to me. Some fragrances that my mom wears or my grandparents wore mean a lot to me. I have several perfumes that like bring me absolute joy. I love jasmine. I love musk. It depends on how I feel as I age, depending, you know, like there's also certain perfumes I can't bear to wear anymore because they remind me of someone or a time and a place that I wasn't good or whatever. I have a very, very complex and colorful relationship to smell. And I have many, many favorites. I'm obsessed.
Here, if you want my advice, you should go for Aurora by Alone. It's really good. It's really good. You should check it out. Like I'll leave a link to that in the description below if you want to get it.
We're not sponsored by this.
If you want to, you should. But it's good.
Describe what it smells like.
Right. I'll describe it right now. Here we go.
Never rub. That's a lot of rubbing.
Well, that's what I do, and it works all the time.
Never do that. It's fast forwarding a song. What are you trying to do?
I mean, time and stuff, right? But it smells citrusy.
Okay. But you just cut off like half that citrus by rubbing so profusely.
Right? I sprayed it again. It's very sharp. It smells really good.
Sorry.
and it smells like Kuwait, if I'm being honest. Like, it's really good. I like it. I like this perfume because it was made by my friend. Right? He has a shop of his own.
Nice shout out.
Yeah. I thought I'd give him a little shout out, right?
Nice.
Aurora, right? It's really good. He has he just did 3 and they all smell different, but this one's my favorite. It's like very sharp and citrusy, and it stays for the whole day, which is my favorite kinds of perfumes, if I'm being honest. I love the ones that stay for the whole day.
Yeah, I know. That's so difficult. And that's very, very Khaliji.
It is.
It's very, very Khaliji. And it's called a sillage. It's in French, it means like what you leave behind, the trail.
Right.
So it's a very specific thing. Like for you guys, the stronger it is, the better.
That's very true.
For the Japanese, the lighter it is, the better. So it really depends on culture.
Oh, wow.
Everyone is very, very different. Yeah, it's
now that you mentioned it, yeah, like I just realized it's why is it that way? So what about it makes it so important?
What I've understood, especially when it comes to hospitality, is that when someone invites, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, when you have people over in your majlis or wherever, and you invite a shilla, a crew, and you have them hanging out. And these could be women too. I mean, come on. And so there's an aspect of scenting them with your own, house recipe, let's say, house blend.
Smell like me.
And
smell like me.
Yes, and then leaving, and then when they leave, they smell of that household. So from my understanding, there is an element of what's the word I'm looking for?
Hospitality.
Well, I've already used that. No, but yes, this is a form of hospitality, but it is an element of
benevolence.
Yes.
Gifting.
Yes, in a way. And it's also like you represent, like this is a representation, you know what I mean? And it's also an identification. I think it's a form of identification, like, because there's also so many, and I'll speak for women who have not had as many, they live in a patriarchal society and they've not had as many freedoms. I think the fact that you can speak with your scent says a lot.
Right.
And I think that could also be something. And I think a lot of people don't realize that we also do communicate via smell so much.
Yeah, can you please tell us what do you mean by speak with scent?
I mean, in this example, I would say it's like more covert, because it's like you can't express yourself fashion-wise as much as you would like to, for example, right? Like I dress very differently here than I do in the Middle East, but I feel like I can smell stronger in the Middle East than so it's like almost like taking a risk in that way. Or you can see my personality through my scent.
Right.
And I think a lot of people in those regions feel like they can identify with that and use that as a form of identity. And like people who love the same perfume for 20 years, they identify themselves within that. So I do feel like that's what I mean when I say speak with scent, and especially in regions where you don't have as much freedom. And that is something that you could use to adorn yourself. I think that makes,
I've once heard, Donna, that like natural scent of just your body is attractive or communicates, or the pheromones, from what I understand.
Okay.
Please help me out here. So should I put perfume on, or should I just stick to
your natural scent?
Yes.
I think it's a little bit of both. Like you can wear a scent to feel really good about yourself, but also use it like some people use perfume to seduce. Some people use perfume to feel confident. Some people just wear it for themselves to feel good. Others to even signify status. Like I know that a lot of people will wear Khaliji scents, even in the Arab world, to seem as high of a status as the Khaliji people. Does that make sense? Because let's be real, the GCC countries from a socioeconomic status are much higher than the rest of the Middle East. The rest of the Middle East has a lot of...
I promise you, us guys don't think about it too much into us Khaliji boys, right? We just like it because it smells good. It's not really...
No, that's not what I mean. I'm talking about non-Khaliji people.
Right. Oh,
I'm talking about non-Khaliji people. I'm talking about when people go to Dubai and they go, okay, I'm gonna buy this amouage, I'm gonna buy this, I'm gonna buy that. There's also an element of status. I wear this, therefore it's fashion. Like I have this Louis Vuitton bag, whatever it is. It's the same thing. And let's not get it twisted. Our people are obsessed with brand names, and it's a little bit like, and European brand names, which is really, really kind of sad, but it is a reality. So these elements of status are very much intertwined with fragrance. I totally believe that. Going back to pheromones, there is scientific evidence about pheromones, like even like butterflies, insects, all kinds of
animals.
Yes, all kinds of animals communicate with pheromones. We absolutely communicate via scent. But it's one element. I talk about how it is a very subconscious sense. We talk to each other, but like women will absolutely choose a mate based on their sense of smell. And our sense of smell changes based on like throughout the month. And there are elements of, genetic compatibility that I absolutely believe in. So there are elements of, yes, we communicate with each other subliminally through our sense of smell as well. And don't hide your smell, but I don't think, because I think a lot of people think that perfume is like a hygienic product. And it's like, if I can't smell you and all I can smell is whatever you put on you, then I feel like I can't connect with you. But I do believe that there is a balance. So my perfumes, even though I'm an Arab perfumer, I know that in the GCC, everyone would say, oh, they're very light because of what you're used to. But if I, for instance, showcase it somewhere, maybe in Bilad al-Sham, it could be kind of okay because there's freshness or green scents that we are more used to, or jasmine, or things that are
less dry,
lighter. What?
I said less dry, basically.
No, not about dry. No, it's really about strength. And it's also more, I mean, naturally, Lebanon or Bilad al-Sham, they have temperate climates. So of course you're gonna find more green or woody notes, but there's a lot of woodiness, actually. There's cedar, there's pine, there's cypress. Those are all woody materials. And oud isn't dry. It's actually really one of the most complex materials. It's actually kind of like, it smells like curdled cheese. It's woody, ambery, it's smoky. It's all of these things combined, and it all depends on the type of oud that you're smelling. There's never one type of oud. And again, oud is a sick tree. So what you're smelling is actually the tree kind of reacting to the sickness and creating this oud, this kind of smell. It's pretty crazy. So I wouldn't call agarwood dry by any means. And also rose, saffron, all of these materials, none of them are dry.
I mean, yeah.
There you go.
I was talking a little bit about the air, but
well, I mean, I don't know. Like, growing up in Dubai, I remember like 90% humidity in September.
That's because you guys are like way by the coast, right?
It's so humid. It's so ridiculously humid. So I've never been to Kuwait. I can't say how dry it is.
It gets humid, but most of the time it's very. Well, it is hot, but it's super dry all the time. So it's like. That's why we like the perfumes that stay long, because in dry areas we tend to sweat more to keep our skin, from crusting and stuff. So sweat doesn't really smell good. So that's why we prefer
deodorant, Axe deodorant spray.
I get that. And also dry climates don't transfer scent as much as humidity does.
Oh, there you go.
Is that true? Is that right?
Fact. Yeah.
That's pretty. Whoa. Okay.
How does the scent travel through the air then?
It's small particles in the air, and then don't like take my word.
Ellie, why are you making her explain Brown's theory? This is like physics.
Yeah,
Sorry,
exactly. And I'm like, I don't.
Yes.
That's the part. Like, I didn't get 100% in perfume school because of my chemistry. I got 91. I was so close, but it was the chemistry. I would say, yeah, it's like particles in the air, and like there's a word called petrichor, for example, that occurs when after the rain, and it kind of like reacts with the pavement, with the asphalt, and creates this wet smell. And it's called petrichor. Oh, wow. And you'll just notice that whenever it's wetter, you smell things a lot more. It just holds things a lot more. I don't know how to explain it. Like in Montreal, scents kind of disappear in the winter because there's way less humidity in the air, and then spring comes along and everything is back. And
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's good to know. I do wanna ask you, Ghana, because I felt bad for Ali because he made a fool of himself, spraying the perfume and then rubbing it like that. My personal technique is also foolish. I do the one where you like spray, and then I go like this.
Oh, I've never seen that one.
You don't do that. Come on, there's no reaction.
I saw it in a TV show once. I saw it in like exactly
in the air once. And fan it towards yourself. I mean, listen, with strong scents, if I were wearing a wood perfume, which I rarely do, I'll spray it and I'll walk into it.
Okay.
You know, there's different ways of doing it. The thing is that a lot of people rub, but it's because you're maybe perhaps used to oils. But what happens is that you're kind of just breaking down the molecules, and it will last less, especially if it starts with a citrus, because materials have, like in perfumes, generally the general structure is top, middle, base. And that's how we kind of express it to people. And it's really just more about tenacity and the character of the molecules. So citrus, I call them the party animals all the time, because they kind of show up, they're in your face, and then they disappear after 15 minutes. They're not supposed to last that long, and they don't have that kind of chemical structure. Whereas oud or cedar or any woods are base notes. They last a really long time. And the heart notes or the middle notes are like a lot of florals or some spices. They kind of connect everything together. So over time, this is what's happening, is that your scents are reacting with air and your skin, and then they develop.
Oh,
interesting.
So does perfume smell differently on different people if it's interacting? 100%. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like
that's amazing.
Women wearing the same lipstick. It's like if we're not the same shade of skin, it doesn't make any sense to wear the same color lipstick. It's going to look different on everyone. It all depends on, I really believe it depends on your ethnicity. So we all smell very specific. We all have very specific smells. But also generally, like, I think Arabs smell a certain way, or people of African origin smell another way, of Indian origin smell another way, of Asian origin smell another way. Wait. Absolutely. But this is my personal.
Yes. Do you have, can you explain that a little bit more? Do you know if it's like.
I just think we have inherent smells, just like we have inherent features.
Right.
I agree.
That's it.
I agree.
And 100%. what we eat, obviously, time of day, where we live. All of these things have an effect on how we smell.
Right, it's pretty cool. So have you gone into the science of exactly like what scent can do and how it can affect on people, or is that not down your alley?
Oh, I mean, I can send you articles on that, but I can't like speak to it as a professional or someone who completely understands everything or how it works.
Right.
But I mean, there are a lot of materials that have been scientifically proven to help you calm down, like lavender, clary sage. Clary sage has sedative properties. I mean, aromatherapy is like a whole other industry, right?
Right. Yeah, that's true. Like you have these different candles for different stuff, and just like.
Yeah, of course. So
weird.
I absolutely believe that there are therapeutic properties in both plants and flowers, and we have been using them since ancient times, in medicine, in herbal medicine, in aromatherapy, in perfumery, in all of these different things. So absolutely.
Wow. It's insane what it can do. Like I've seen, like especially when you go into places where it's mainly made for relaxation and stuff, they usually have these it smells a certain kind
Like
of
lavender,
way, right?
yeah.
Like, yeah, like it's insane, but it's pretty cool, like to just wonder about how this whole thing works with the human brain. It's amazing. So, in your opinion, what do you think is the most intense like smell? Period. Like the most intense, other than Arabic oud, like what comes after that?
Oh, I don't find oud that intense.
Oh
I
wait,
can
you
handle
don't?
oud. No, I
mean,
like oud. I mean, but again, I grew up in the middle in Dubai,
Right.
and because I grew up in Dubai, like had I grown up in Egypt or Lebanon, I don't think I would have had the affinity to oud the way that I do, or an
Right.
understanding of it, or the appreciation of even like the smell of henna and things like that. An intense smell. Well, how would you define intense? Is it
Like
a good
something
thing
that's
or a bad
like,
thing?
it could be whatever you want. We can go good and bad if you want. So like a good intense smell, something that's like, whoa, I can smell that from a mile away. Like what's the most sensitive thing that anyone can pick up on easily?
Anyone?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
For me,
Smell is so subjective, Ali. Like
right.
it's so extremely subjective. Even what I smell may not be what you smell. And I know for a fact that I
Right.
smell, like my sense of smell is much more magnified than most. So sometimes when I'm like, do you smell that? Most times people will say no. And I smell it. Or like someone shows up and like I can break down exactly what you smell like. And my mom would be like, wow, Shamema, like I didn't even pick up on it. And so that's
So
just
wait, so what do you mean by you go like you can tell the perfume or you can
everything. Like sometimes I'll be like, did you have onions last night? Ask people the weirdest questions. Or like my brother, we were in my parents' living room a couple of days ago, and he comes up to me and he's a smoker. So he had just put on some perfume and he's like, he wants me to be like, you like my perfume? And he loves strong oud smells, by the way. And sometimes I'm like, yo, you smell like really freaking strong. And he doesn't notice because he's a smoker. So that's another element. But and so he sat down and he's like, do you smell it? I'm like, yo, I smell alcohol. I smell cigarettes. I smell your perfume and these molecules in the perfume. And my mom goes, alcohol fain. And he goes, oh, I just used the hand sanitizing lotion. I'm like, there you go. I'm not wrong.
okay.
I'm glad you know my mom. Right?
I noticed everything. And some people get very like self-conscious around me, but I find it kind of fun. But or people will like randomly ask me the weirdest questions, like, how do you feel about body odor? And I'm like, embrace your funk.
Embrace your funk.
Yeah, sure.
We are slowly wrapping out of time here, Donna. I do want to ask you a few last favorite smells before we wrap up. What's your favorite like flower or plant smell?
Jasmine. Yeah, that's an easy one.
All right. What about like your favorite like food to smell?
Ooh, my favorite food to smell. That's a really good question. Damn. I think of like a bunch of things, but I really love the smell of like fried onions and rice and that combo. And then also my mom makes this really yummy sha'riya soup, and there's also mastic and cardamom in there that I really enjoy. Yeah, I don't know, a lot of different things. I love cumin too, so
Jadara must be your favorite.
I do love mjaddara, I do, and I love kushari also.
Ooh.
I'm a sucker for the lentil rice combo, absolutely, yeah, and the onions.
My personal favorite is Indian food. Anytime I smell Indian food, I'm like, yes.
Oh, fragrant, yeah.
Yeah, it is. I smell that shit from a mile away, and I'm just like, oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, I definitely thought of like biryani or something like that. Like fragrant rice is always something that's like a very big pleasure, because there's also the element of garlic and onion combo that's a winner for everyone. Like the base. Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. Now that you mention it, garlic and onion, like probably the most intense smell in all of the food, right? Like away from herbs and stuff. It's very like in your face
prominent.
For some reason.
Yeah, and it's also what makes you smell the most. They are definitely the two materials, the food materials that are big culprits
Okay. Well,
The linger.
Mm.
Yeah.
unfortunately, we are out of time, but thank you very much for watching another episode of A to the Show. Before we wrap up, do you have anything you want to shout out or let the world know?
Embrace your sense of smell and look into the nuance of all kinds of smell cultures, and just like walk down the street and pay attention to your sense of smell, and you'll notice that you'll start to see the world a little differently. You're going to taste things differently, and then you'll also actually smell clearer over time.
Well,
amazing.
Thank you for watching another episode of A to the
Appreciate
Show.
your
If you guys
time.
enjoyed this episode half as much as we enjoyed
Let's
filming
go.
it for you, like,
Check out
subscribe, and
Donna.
share. Check out
Links
Donna.
in the
We'll leave a link to her
description.
stuff in the description below. I'm Ali. He's Ali.
I'm also Ali, signing
Peace,
out.
love,
Adios,
happiness.
amigos.